Thank you to the Ministry of Education and the Bhutan Canada Foundation for giving me the opportunity to present to you today my session on writing for online learners and readers. As online learning has increased for our students, it is useful to understand how online writing can match up to the needs of online learners and readers. I will present 5 key tips. First of all, some information on how we read and learn online. 2, how to present information online. 3, how to maintain interest in content. 4, how to avoid information overload. And finally, building a biliterate brain. All these tips will build your knowledge on how to write for the web. First of all, I'd like you to think about how you or your learners read online. Do you read everything word for word, beginning to end, line by line, sentence by sentence? Or do you scan for the most important information? Do you navigate quite easily from one content to another, one page to another, one media to another? Or do you need to look for clear instructions to tell you what to do next? Do you get easily distracted by other websites, images, or videos? Or do you like looking at a visual or video before reading the text? When you spend a long time reading online, do you feel tired after reading on the screen for a while? Or is it the same kind of experience as you get when you're reading a book? Think about your experience. Now, I would like to explain how we read differently online because it will give us an idea of why we need to write differently online. Only 16% of us read word for word online. Most of us, 79% of readers, skim and scan for relevant information. There is a 25% slower comprehension rate online than on paper. Why is this? Because we are time-conscious readers. We have a short attention span. We have less patience online. Online readers scan and slow down only when specific content grabs attention. They are looking for specific information. There is a lot of information overload, screen glare, and eye stress challenges, which makes it tiring to continue reading online. And there can be distractions that take us away from the text. How can we make this easier for our students? Help them understand the content and make it less stressful for them to read online. When the online page is more usable for the reader, there is a 47% increase in understanding the content. Understanding the different online text scanning patterns can help us think about how we write online. Eye tracking research shows that there are 4 main patterns that people use to scan textual information on web pages. 1, the F-shape pattern, which is the most common pattern. 2, the spotted scanning pattern. 3, the layer cake pattern. And 4, the commitment pattern. And I'm going to explain what these mean in the next few slides. In this image, you can see a yellow and red heat map showing where the eyes moved in the first 3 paragraphs of this text on tigers in crisis. It shows a capital F shape, kind of resembles a capital F shape, and it's true of left to right languages. If you were writing in a right to left languages, a reverse F shape would occur. This is the spotted scan reading pattern. You can see blue dots all over the page where the eyes scanned and rested, mainly at headings, bold headings, at the images, some key information in the paragraph, and bulleted points. Now they've called this a layer cake pattern resembling horizontal layers of a cake. So you kind of have to imagine that with the blue dots moving across the page. mainly looking at the headings at the top and the image and some information at the bottom. They're not looking at the content at all. Now, this is an advertisement to sell something, so it's not a high stakes reading activity, it's a low stakes reading activity with not a lot of deep reading going on here at all. The last reading pattern I'm talking about is the commitment pattern, which resembles more of a traditional kind of pattern. You can see it is quite dense where the blue dots are. The reader looked at the headings at the top, at the paragraphs. There was a lot of deep reading going on there. They moved across to the images and videos across the page. Now, this might be a high stakes reading activity. They might have to read this text to do an assignment for school. So it is there is a lot of deep reading going on here. At the same time, we want to make this less stressful to read online by creating headings and subheadings and information that is easy to scan. And I'll be talking about how we do that in the next slide. The next tip is on how to present information online. We need to write for the scanning eye and for the purpose of the reading activity. Think about the purpose of the reading activity. Is it to gather information or pass a quiz? Is it a high stakes or low stakes activity? If it is to gather information, it may be a low stakes activity where you can lay out the information with bulleted points and headings. If it is a high stakes activity, you might want to look at presenting the information with a committed pattern. So we need to lay out the information for how learners scan. Break up the information into chunks of information or small bites. This helps with retention. Arrange the chunks into meaningful groupings through headings and visual cues. Help the learners understand how it is organized. Help the learners understand the content so they are less stressed and they are learning in an engaging way. Another tip is to write the paragraphs in the pyramid style. This means that you put the most important information word first and keywords at the beginning of sentences. This will help with the scanning eye. Think about how to present the content in different ways. A procedural text can work better as a series of visual steps, or a concept might be better explained in a video rather than as written text. Bilingual glossaries can be enhanced by images. Think about the best way to convey a fact, concept, or meaning in multiple ways. Also, think about the page length. Shorter pages support the scanning eye. Longer pages involve a lot more scrolling. Will that tire the reader or the student? Will it encourage them to continue reading or not? These are all points that we need to consider. Here are some examples to explain what I mean. This is a Word document of a list of bulleted points on how to communicate with Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. On print, it might be easy to read as a simple list, but if we were to put this online, how can we organize the information to make it clear for the reader, to make it more readable and enjoyable to read? You can immediately see visually how the information was transformed and organized differently. So the list of bulleted points was used to form short, simple headings that are memorable, and the content is in the box underneath the heading. The student has to click on the heading and it will open up the box and reveal each piece of information. So the student is reading slowly. It's more direct and concentrated piece by piece. This is statistical information on Aboriginal languages spoken in Australia. How can we present this information differently online? This is how the statistical information was transformed. There is some information on Aboriginal languages in the left-hand column. In the right-hand column is the information as images. So the numbers appear as images. The students tap on the number and it reveals what that number means in this context. I mentioned the inverted pyramid structure as a way to organize and present information to readers and learners online. It is perfectly suited for the web. We know that students have little patience for reading content online, and we need to address these kinds of behaviors online. This inverted pyramid style addresses all of these aspects of user behavior. So we can put the most important information first, then the next important information, and then the less important information, and so on in a paragraph or in the page. This ensures that the reader gets the most important information first, even if they don't read everything in the paragraph or on the page. My third tip is on how do we get our students and learners to maintain interest in the content they are reading online. First of all, it's important to write for your audience. Think about the appropriate tone for your audience. Is it going to be a conversational tone, a personal tone, or a formal tone? We want to be able to connect to our audience. Using personal pronouns and characters is also a good idea. Learners want to feel involved, so a personal pronoun or a character will help them feel involved in what they are reading. The content, the information they are reading can relate to something they are doing in their life now. Use the active voice in sentences as they are easier to understand online. Passive sentences are cumbersome to read online. Use key statements to guide and instruct. Think about the difference between transitional and instructional statements. Learners want to know where they are heading. To maintain interest in content, engage learners in different ways. It doesn't have to be all written. Use visuals and videos or audio to highlight or explain a point. Use quizzes with immediate feedback to foster a sense of achievement between reading chunks of information. If the student gets the answers correct in an easy quiz, it gives them encouragement to continue reading and learning in the next piece of text. Use tasks to break up the reading load. Give them dictionary work, writing, drawing, thinking activities. Provide offline options. Learners may find it useful to download a file to work offline. This gives them more time to digest it at their own pace, as well as cater to those with limited internet connection. Here are some examples I'm going to show you now. This is a Word document explaining editing symbols for writing that teachers use when they correct students' writings. Now, this is quite boring to just look at it on a Word document, but what was done with it was that it was transformed into a video with a hand transcribing the writing. There is the image on the right of the video, but I will try to play the video for you, just a short bit of it to give you an idea. If it doesn't come across, then at least the image gives you an idea of what it looks like. In the video, there is a hand transcribing the information as the speaker explains each symbol. The student is focused on each piece of writing as it is written by the hand, so they are not distracted by looking at anything else. So think about what kind of information you have that might be better presented as a video instead of written content.
From time to time in our writing, we miss capitals, which are necessary for proper nouns or names of places or people. Missing words in sentences can be shown in this way. This may mean that you need to place another item of vocabulary to complete the context. In this example, the is missing from the sentence. This symbol suggests that word order is wrong for this particular context. Change the word order to clarify the sentence's meaning. NP means new paragraph. This is where we break from one idea to a new idea, as a paragraph contains one single idea. Verb tenses sometimes require changing, either from past to present or to future. From time to time, words may be omitted or require omitting from a sentence. This symbol suggests omission. Spelling errors may sometimes occur in our writing. When this happens, try another spelling or another item of vocabulary. WW denotes wrong word. Wrong word may be used in the context in this case, so try and find another word. WF shows that you have the wrong form of the word. This may mean that you need to find a noun or a verb or an adjective form of the word in this context. Pronouns take the place of a noun. This helps with cohesion. In this example, a pronoun is missing from the sentence. Pronouns may be the name of a person, place, an animal, or a thing. Backslash may show a space is required in the sentence. Sometimes this occurs after punctuation marks or simply between words. Missing plurals may be shown by an S. The plural, of course, may not necessarily be simply an S, but it may mean another form of the plural is required. Subject-verb agreement is an area of correction in some examples. The subject must agree with the verb in terms of plural or singular.
This is an example of a sentence that has been changed from passive to active form. If you write, there are many ways in which we can classify plants. It is a very formal tone, but it is also very wordy and distances the reader from the content. If it changes to we can classify plants in many ways, using a personal pronoun helps connect to the audience. It is more direct, engaging, and energetic in tone. These are examples of transitional and instructional sentences. A transitional sentence indicates a change in the topic or task. For example, now let's look at how we classify plants. When you're ready, click Next to. An instructional statement explains what to do next. Here are the steps to plant identification. Let's practice the following steps. These sentences help guide the students to understand what they have to do when they are on the web page. Help them understand what they have to do so they stay on the page and they don't wander off somewhere else. Point number 4 is on how to avoid information overload. Here are some tips to follow. Present the information in a consistent layout so the learners know what to expect. Consistency is the key. Use headings to provide key information. Try to make it short, relevant, and memorable rather than a long heading. Provide white space as a breather between content. Too dense affects readability. If there is some white space between the sentences and paragraphs organized in an even manner, it is easier to scan for information and it increases the comprehension rate. Avoid more than 2 or 3 colors or purely decorative images that don't add meaning to the content. If the page looks too loud and colorful, the key points get lost. Keep the page looking organized, neat, and clear and easy to read. Now, here are some tips on what to avoid. Avoid too many links on the web page. You want learners to stay within the online resource as much as possible, or they might not come back to it. Avoid click fatigue. 2 or 3 links is enough. If learners have to keep clicking to get to a resource or key information, they will get frustrated. Avoid scrolling for too long for the same reason. So we want students to stay on the page on the online resource as much as possible, and on a page that it is easy to navigate and understand. So the image you are seeing is a online PDF document on the Spanish language. It is difficult to navigate page to page. As you can see there, you would have to look at the navigation bar on the left and click the page that you want. Then you would also have to go to the CD and find the audio to listen to when doing the listening activities here. This is how it was transformed into an online learning resource. The information was organized so that there is a left-hand menu. Each chapter is numbered. Within each chapter, there are different sections for different activities to read, listen to dialogue, understand the grammar. The page that you click on shows up on the right hand side. You can see there is an image, there is an embedded audio, so they don't have to go somewhere else to find the audio. The dialogue is written underneath. Everything is on the same page. Students don't have to go anywhere else. They know what to do. It looks clear, neat, and tidy. The menu is in a different color from the content activity, and there is spacing between the dialogue. This is another example of an online resource with a left-hand menu. You can see there is a blue tick. Each blue tick indicates to the student that they have completed that chapter. So if they come back to it on the next day, they know where they are up to. The information that they click on is on the right hand side. You can see there is only one image, there is a short heading, and there is even white space between the paragraphs and the images. This is an example of a quiz that is presented to the student online. You can see there is an image on the left. There are not many colors in the image, and the image complements the colors on the right where the question is. The title of the quiz is a question, can you remember? Then how many miles from Earth is the sun? Click on one of the options below. 9 miles, 9 million miles, 93 million miles. The student receives immediate feedback. When they receive immediate feedback, it is encouraging the students to continue learning if they get the answer correct. So it doesn't look like an overwhelming quiz question. It's not distracting, but it is engaging. This is an example of instructions transformed into a video presentation. The numbered instructions are on the left, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. When you click on the number, it shows you a different video. Each video shows you how to cut or chop a piece of vegetable differently. So obviously it's for a cooking class. It doesn't look like an overwhelming amount of information to take in. It's engaging to watch the video, but I would also suggest that an audio transcript be provided to the students as an offline option. Now I would like to break up my presentation by giving you a thinking activity. How would you transform this resource for online learning? This is a page from an English language book. It is presenting listening activities to students. Number 1, 2, and 3, the students have to listen to an audio that they find in a CD, and they have to answer the questions presented there. Number 4, they have to listen again and underline the fillers on a transcript they have to find on page 110. Number 5, they have to listen again without the transcript. And number 6 is a pair work activity where they ask and answer questions with each other. If you had to put this in an online course for students to do, how would you present it online? What would you do? Okay, so now we've arrived at my final point, building a biliterate brain from Reader Come Home. Reader Come Home, The Reading Brain in the Digital World was written by Mary Ann Wolfe and published in 2018. I'd like to leave you with some key quotes to think about. Mary Ann Wolfe writes, "The future of the reading circuit will require an understanding of the limits and possibilities of both the literacy-based circuit and digital-based ones. Our students are experiencing reading in different environments. They are reading in books, but they are also reading online. There are advantages and disadvantages to both kinds of reading." Deep reading skills not only provide critical antidotes to the negative effects of digital culture, like the diffusion of attention and the attrition of empathy, but also complement positive digital influences. We know that reading online means that students have short attention spans and that they read differently, so it is not always the best place to develop deep reading skills. Deep reading skills, such as the kind of reading you do in a book, means that students can develop empathy for characters. They can learn critical thinking skills. They can take time to digest the information. I was very much impressed by the deep reading culture that Bhutan has when I did my volunteer teaching there at Kurutang Middle Secondary School, and I hope that is something that you will maintain. So, what is the future of reading? Mary Ann Wolfe writes, "The formation of a code switching biliterate brain that has internalized the best characteristics of both print and digital reading. Children with the flexible medium switching capacities of a fully biliterate brain will further the intellectual development of our species." I could relate to this quote because as a bilingual speaker, I can switch between two languages. This code switching ability is a good analogy for what our students have to do now between reading in books and reading online, to be able to be flexible in different medium switching capacities. Is this what we want our students to be able to do? Is this what we are helping our students do? Building a biliterate brain. Now, I've presented this information from the point of view of the writer, who is often the subject matter expert or the teacher, but sometimes we need a team of people to create an online resource or web page, which includes learning designers, graphic designers, audio and video technicians, and IT people. But I hope this has given you a starting point in thinking about how to write your content for online learners and readers. Thank you for listening.